Hello out there! It's week 7 of the NFL season, which means it's week 7 of the MCC season, which means it's the week 7 edition of the MCC News. I'm your host, 5-time MCC champion, Alan Morrow. Now let's get to it. Time for the week 6 rewind. High points with the James this week. James with 133.2 points. This is James's first high points of the season, which actually continues our streak as a league, going over and over again with a new high points winner every week. There's been no repeat champion so far of high points. So that's a great streak that continues. One streak that did end was the streak of the weekly high points winner losing the next week because Doug won. He won high points last year. He won this week over Adam. So congratulations, Doug, for breaking that streak. Next is low points winner, Tyra. Tyra with low points this week of 85.26, which is our second highest low points winner of the year. This is Tyra's first time in this getting low points this year. It was looking like for a moment in this league that Jeremy would actually three-peat as low points, but Jeremy having a big Monday night from Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson was able to catapult him over Tyra and saving himself from that shameful three-peat. Now for our closest matchup, Jeremy over Ben by 0.44. Wait a moment. Sorry, scratch that. It's Ben over Jeremy by 0.06. You hear that right. Jeremy had a victory for about 10 minutes on Monday night until one of Breece Hall's catches that he made late in the game got deemed as a rush because it was a behind a pass, not a forward pass. So therefore, he lost a half a point, which catapulted Ben over Jeremy. Jeremy had a W. Now he has an L. Everybody that knows Jeremy's luck knows he always loses these close games. He hardly ever wins them. So just another bad break for Jeremy. It's a tough one there. And our blowout this week was Schrader over Tyra. Tyra, of course, low points. So that's always going to have you in competition for the biggest blowout. Next, only if I had a different schedule, Adam again wins. He would have beaten only 6 other teams this week with his score of 120.66. This is Adam's third time this year already winning this category. He won it in week 2, won it in week 4, and now again in week 6. So betting odds are he won't win it this week, but next week in week 8, there's a strong chance he'll score a lot of points, but lose the game still, and would once again get the weekly honors of only if I had a different schedule. Which brings us to our next category, matchup of the week. It's position week, so all the matchups are tough. So basically it's going by standings, the first place in the standings versus second place, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. So yeah, there's a chance, especially those middle teams, we can really create a lot of separation of the haves and the have-nots. And obviously teams that are like Adam in the 12 seed matchup needs a big win to keep himself kind of alive here. Then with our next one, it's like someone new. So we just don't have one person that it's like someone new. It's like someone new. We have Will, Lee, Alan, Gabe, Tyra, Jim, Schrader, Adam, Cortez, James, Doug, and even Ben. Everyone except for Jeremy. Jeremy may not right now knows where this is heading. Let's go back, jump into the MCC time machine back to just a few minutes before the 2023 MCC fantasy draft. Jeremy had the number 1 pick overall. Everyone was sitting there just waiting for it to start, waiting for him to select the clear and obvious number 1 overall pick, Christian McCaffrey, CMC. To the shock and awe of all of us, Jeremy traded away the first pick overall to Tyra to get Tyra's keeper, Garrett Wilson, which was a 7th round pick at the time. And he didn't get any other first round pick or any other real pick swap. There was a late 4th and a 6th rounder pick swap. That's kind of irrelevant to this conversation. So Jeremy's essentially traded the first overall pick for Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson was our first overall pick that year. It didn't go well for Jeremy from the moment he announced the trade. Everybody's kind of telling him how he shit the bed. But he insisted. He has this great wide receiver. It's going to be fantastic. By doing this, last year alone, Garrett Wilson was outscored by CMC by nearly 200 points. CMC was the number 1 overall running back by just over 100 points from the number 2, which was Raheem Mostert. Garrett Wilson finished as the wide receiver 32 last season. Because of this, Jeremy's team tanked big time, didn't make the playoffs. But don't worry, because it was a long play, right? Jeremy kept telling us it's not just for this season, it's for the next few seasons. It's the long game. It's a long. So here in 2024, Jeremy is hoping to finally start reaping the benefits of this trade. He was able to keep Garrett Wilson as a 5th-round pick. Many fantasy drafts had him as a fringe first-round pick, so we got a first-round value in the 5th round. After 4 weeks, Garrett Wilson's highest score was 11 points. So after 4 weeks, Garrett Wilson was once again doing Garrett Wilson things and not helping Jeremy's roster at all. Killing his weekly lineup, week in, week out. But Jeremy's patience finally paid off. For the last 2 weeks, Garrett Wilson has scored over 20 points both weeks. This is the first time Garrett Wilson has scored over 20 points since his rookie season in 2022. Yep, he had 0 20-point or more games last season in 2023. So it's finally paying off. It wasn't paying off in the win column yet for him, but at least Garrett Wilson is finally gaining a lot of targets, a lot of catches, a lot of yards, and scoring touchdowns. Fantastic. And how is the fantasy football gods rewarding him for his patience and his determination and holding steady on Garrett Wilson and not over panicking? The Jets have now traded for Davante Adams, which is Aaron Rodgers' number one buddy, essentially, which is most likely going to tank Garrett Wilson's value. He's probably still going to be good, get you 10 points every week, but the high upside week in, week out probably has vanished. Davante Adams is going to get tons of targets from Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is only going to have eyes for Davante Adams for the most part. So once again, the trade that keeps on biting Jeremy in the ass has bit him in the ass again. Right when he thought it was finally turning around for him. Sucks to be Jeremy. All right, Tyler's Fab Thoughts. Not a great week for Fab. Week 6 here, we did have 11 pickups in total. Aaron Rodgers went for $20 to Gabe. Gabe's really trying to get the quarterbacks by picking up. He spent $19 last week on Kirk Cousins, so he dropped Cousins to pick up Rodgers now. Then there was no other bids for Rodgers or even Kirk Cousins last week, so he's spending a lot of money on not a lot of people are going after him. Jerry Jeudy went to Tyra for $11, hoping Judy's production goes up with Amari Cooper gone. And then James spent $11 as well for another wide receiver, Pop Douglas. Then we had running backs, Isaac Guerrero go to Lee for $7. Ben did have a $3 bid. That's really, besides I think a defense, is the only other bid that was multiple bids on any player. And then also running backs, Damian Pierce went to James for $7, and Lee picked up Vidal for $6. Lee's really struggling with running backs, so he's just trying to grab anything they can get there. But in that, let's do a quick look on our Fab through 7 weeks from 2023 to 2024. As you can see, we had in 2023, we had 61 players picked up versus 70 so far, counting the one waiver pickup from today. So we're picking up a few more players this year than we did last year. We spent very much the same amount of dollars, $410 in Fab last year versus $438 in Fabs this year so far. Which basically from per player last year was about $6.70 per player, while it's $6.30 per player here in 2024. So very similar. But next here, the way we spent the money. On QBs, we spent $31 last year versus $63 so far this year, mainly because of Gabe. We picked up 5 QBs versus 9 last year versus 9 this year so far. Running backs are very similar. $151 last year and $159 this year. 17 running backs apiece. Wide receivers, we spent a lot more on wide receivers last year with $163 on 14 wide receivers, but this year we've only spent $90 on 12 wide receivers. Tight ends, big caveat here, $36 on 8 tight ends last year. This year we spent $92 on 6 players, mainly because of Ben's $66 Isaiah Likely pickup after week 1. Defenses are very similar, $21 last year, $24 this year. And then kickers, very similar, $8 last year, $10 this year, but we're picking up more kickers. We have 12 kickers overall versus only 4 kickers that were picked up in this. So we're playing a lot more musical chairs with kickers. We're becoming almost like real NFL teams. And then let's look at some of the top waiver ads. So this year we've had a lot more big spending early in the season. $66 Isaiah Likely, $40 to Tank Bigsby, $37 to Carson Steele. All 3 of those are the 3 highest between the last 2 years combined. Then last year, our highest through 7 weeks was Lee's week 6 pickup of DeMarcado for $27, which I think he dropped the next week. It was not great. Kyron Williams was $22. Romeo Dobbs, $26. Puka, $20. As you see, there was a lot more higher week 1 bids. Why we are a lot more this year, week 2, week 6, week 3, week 7, week 6, a lot more all over the place. So even each week is getting a little higher spend, unlike in last year where week 1 was a big high spending, and it looks like things cooled down from there. And then with that, QBs, that's the biggest spenders on each position. Gabe has spent $47 on Fab on 4 different QBs already this year. Lee has spent $67 on running backs on 4 different running backs this season. Jim, $27 on 3 different wide receivers. Ben, $66 on the 1 tight end, Isaiah Likely. Then Jim has defense and kicker, spent the most on both of those positions, $12 on defense, $4 on kicker. There you go. The biggest takeaway here is Gabe can't find a quarterback, and Lee can't find a running back, mainly, as the 2 biggest spenders in those positions and having multiples of them. Then with that brings us to the end of the news this week. And as always, let's go Lions, fuck the Vikings.